guys, Sid from Mattyctrains here, and today we're going to be opening up this box which inside has the N&W water tender I bought for the Class A. So here's the water tender all out of the box, and it looks really good. Similar to the Class A, this was brand new. It had never been taken out of the box, and it has no wear on it anywhere, and the paint is perfect. Overall, it looks really good. Technically, the box says this is a water tender for a Y6B locomotive. Obviously, it can work for any, and especially since it's Protosound 1, they provide these connectors and wires and all the products you need to hook up the water tender to the engine, which you might be wondering, why would you hook the water tender up to the engine? Well, the water tender has a backup light and a coupler on the back, so you want to be able to throw those with, in this case, Protosound 1 uses a transformer and some whistle sequences to do that. So you want to be able to do that, and you have to wire in the backup light and the coupler for that. So that's what I'm going to be doing for the rest of the video, is wiring up the water tender, and then showing you the one little thing you have to do on the inside of the Class A tender. So starting off, we have some wire nuts here and some zip ties that we will use to organize the wires and connect them electrically. Then here is the wires themselves. So let me take this out of the package so you can get a better look at this. Oops, dropped one of them. Here we go. So here is one of the wires, and I believe this one is for the backup light itself. I will have to check on that. I will be reading the manual on how to do this because that's just the right thing to do. Then here we have actually another wire. This is another similar one that will plug into this one. There we go. And up next we have a switch coming off of this tether, and then the tether is a straight 4-pin tether. And this is what's going to hook up to the Class A tender so that they can communicate between each other. So before I get into installing all this, I've taken a look at the manual here, and this water tender was produced before the Class A was produced. This was produced back when they made the original Protosound 1 Y6B and the original Protosound 1 Class J locomotives, and those did not come with this tether in the tender, and you had to install it yourself. When I opened up my Class A tender to install a new battery, which you always want to do with Protosound 1 engines, I noticed that there was one of these tethers, and that's because MTH installed one from the factory, since they knew that people would want to run the Class A with a water tender. So it's looking to me like I'm not going to have to use this harness or really any of this stuff here, except for I think the switch here, which I will wire in and install into the Class A tender. But other than that, I'm pretty sure I do not have to use anything else, which is really nice. It makes my life easier and is a simple install. So let me actually go grab the Class A tender and open it up. So here's the Class A tender, and before I even open it up, I'm actually going to flip it over and show you that it actually already has the switch installed. If you see right here, it says coal and aux. That is the switch that would usually be this switch. This toggles between the auxiliary tender and the coal tender, and that makes it switch between the coupler on this tender, the backup light on this tender, and then the same on the other. If it's switched to aux, this coupler is disabled, and only the coupler on the water tender will work. If it's flipped to coal, this coupler will work, but the water tender coupler will not work. So it's looking to me like all I'm going to have to do is pop the shell off and route the wire out underneath the coupler. So I got my engine cradle here, and I'm going to take the screws out of the bottom of the tender. Pretty much any MTH tender in general usually only has 4 to 6 screws, and luckily this one has 6, and very simple. I've already opened this tender once because I had to put a new battery in it. A couple people commented in the Class A video, oh, did you put a new battery in it, or a BCR, or any of that? I did put a new battery in it. I do not use BCRs because I find them to not be as, I don't know if really reliable is the word. I feel more safe with a battery. It kind of sounds weird to say that, but I just think the battery is better. It is literally power. It's not just a capacitor. And it doesn't have to charge up every single time you put it on the track. It'll hold the charge for a really long time, and you can just run your train when you set it on the track. So let me get this last screw out. Take off this little step piece here, and I should be able to then just pop off the shell, or pop off the chassis from the shell. And I have a couple wires laying here, so I'm going to set that there. Disconnect this light wire if I can. It's being a little stubborn, so I'll grab a screwdriver. This thing is brand new, so it doesn't surprise me that these clips are a little stiff. Sometimes it just takes a little persuasion. There we go. And now let me move some of the stuff out of the way and get a better look at the chassis and the electronics. So here is the chassis with all the electronics on it. As you can see, I've installed a new battery, as I said before. This is just a Amazon Basics battery. It's just a very cheap alternative to, say, an MTH battery or a Duracell, or just one of the main brands. And this is a Protosound 1 setup inside a tender usually. This is the soundboard, the E-unit, the speaker, and of course the battery. And then you have this tether, which goes to the engine, but then, unlike most tenders, they also have this tether right here. Let me pull this out and get a better look. This is the water tender connections, and here's the water tender switch I showed you before. And if you look, it's very similar. Both 4-pin connectors, they're both straight. They even have the same little white marking on them. So that's good, and all I have to do now is take this wire and route it underneath here. And I'll figure out the best way to route it. If I need to, I can loosen this little clamp here and give me some more wiggle room, so to speak. But I don't think that'll be necessary. So let me just slide this wire underneath here. Actually, I think I'm going to undo that clamp so that I don't bend the wires too much. I prefer to keep them as nice shape as possible. So let me slide this connector underneath. And here we go. Now I can install that clamp back on. And I'll make sure to keep the wire away from the outside of the shell. There we go. And there's that, and see, now I have more slack over here, so I can route it underneath here. And see, this allows for me to have slack, so I can have it be coming out from underneath, and then it can move back and forth, and that won't be an issue. So now what I'm going to do is put this back on the shell. So with the water tender back and the coal tender put back together, I have the tether hanging out here. And if you're wondering about the water tender, I will be doing a review on it, as well as the Class A, and as well as the the unshrouded Class J that I got a little while ago. So any unboxing videos, I'm just unboxing and showing them off. I will then do a review later, as I said in some other videos. But back to this. Now I'm going to hook up the water tender to the coal tender. So if I flip over the water tender, it might be hard to see, but there's a plug here. And I take this connector and I put it into that plug. There we go. And then I set this back on the track. I connect up the couplers, and there we go. The wire hangs down a little, but that's normal. That's how these old MTH water tenders work, and it looks really good now. So with this put together, now I'm going to pull over the Class A engine, hook it all together, and then show you it in action. So I got the Class A pulled up over here, and I want to show you just this tender in action. So let me turn on the engine and get it into neutral. Let me make sure there we go. So here it is on the coal tender side of the switch. So let me activate the coupler. And as you see the coupler through, sorry for that sound, I'll do the coupler again. So it throws when it's on the coal side, but if I flick it to the aux side, so now let me try and activate it with it on the aux side. And see, the coupler doesn't throw. So now let me connect the tether to the aux tender, and I'll show you the coupler on the tender in action. So with the aux tender hooked up, let me pull up the Class A so you can see the coupler on the back of this tender. And that's the demonstration that I wanted to show. It's a very simple tender, so to speak. It doesn't have a lot going for it. It just has the coupler, and it does have the backup light, but hold on. Let me shut it off. There we go. Okay, so as I was saying, it's a very simple tender. It has the coupler with the tether, and then it also has a backup light, except I opened the tender and I found out that the backup light wire had been pinched, so I have to redo the wire, but other than that, it'll be fine, and I'll demonstrate that when or demonstrate the backup light when I review the tender. But I'm really glad I picked this up. If I move the camera here, it just adds to the look of the Class A. And this could also work behind a Y6B or a Class J or like a 611 if you had a Protosound 1 version. And it like I said, it just adds to the look of it. It extends the train, makes it it just looks really cool with it. Um, the railroads usually ran these because, of course, water. You need more water, so you hook it up behind the other tender, and you have more water, so you don't have to stop as often. So it's just a cool item to have, and I just wanted to unbox it and show it off a little. So I would love to run it around the layout, but I'm doing some work on the layout that you'll be seeing soon. So for now, that's all I have for this video. As always, like, subscribe, and click the bell for notifications. Comment below and tell others about the channel. I'm Sid, and I'll see you next time, guys.